Hi, this is Ted. Last time I talked about exaggeration and some points of exaggeration that take place within the Charismatic movement, especially in the New Apostolic Reformation and within the faith healing circles. Now, today I'm going to be talking about how this exaggeration, and I only touched upon it. I feel like I'm just dipping my toes in an ocean of information. But exaggeration kind of creates its own culture and its own worldview. And that exaggeration leads to expectation. And I'll give you a couple examples. Because of the stories that and testimonies of healing that take place, a lot of them exaggerated. Some of them, there's so much to talk about why these stories don't all add up, but I don't have time to get into it. I will just focus on the ones that are exaggerated or made up. But because of these stories that are exaggerated and made up, people will believe that the miraculous has taken place when the miraculous really hasn't taken place. And because they believe that it happened for so-and-so, they will believe. And that doesn't mean there is no such thing as miracles. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the common ideas that are going on in the signs and wonders and the faith healing and in the New Apostolic Reformation, the common ones that they seem to be believing are real are not real. The vast majority can be explained very naturally. And if you don't understand the natural part of it, you're going to, oh, I see something that looks like a miracle, it's got to be a miracle. All right. Expectation is built out of exaggeration. Because I saw it in that person, what I don't realize, I really didn't see a miracle in most cases. For example, somebody has cancer, but the cancer goes away. It's a miracle. Is it? Cancer is the most unpredictable of diseases. It comes and it goes. Somebody might have cancer throughout their body and it seems to disappear. There's actually a case where a doctor talks about a tumor, a huge tumor in a person's body that disappears with his simply believing that he was injected with the right vaccine to take care of that tumor. And when he realized that that vaccine doesn't work, the tumor returned and he died. There is actually a case in that, and that was purely nothing miraculous. In the doctor's eyes and in the patient's eyes, he understood that the only reason it disappeared was something called the placebo effect. Now, there have been almost no other cases where the placebo effect has been able to eradicate cancer, but there are plenty of cases where cancer just disappears on its own. I want to talk about another case, something that happened in my life. Years ago, I read Reader's Digest, I believe it was. And in that Reader's Digest, I read about a woman who took care of a whole litter of kittens and got rid of all of them except the runt of the litter. And she said she just loved that cat and took care of it and gave it tons of affection. And as a result, from that affection and love, that little runt was the best cat she's ever had. And it was a very moving and touching story. And it just so happened my wife and I were going to an orphanage as missionaries just to help out in an orphanage in Haiti. And because I got so sick outside for the first couple of days, I decided to stay inside and help out. And inside, I asked the people in charge, I said, which baby needs most attention? Or which baby has, I think that might have been the way that I pose it. Which baby needs the most attention? And they said, well, one of them, Ezekiel. His name really wasn't Ezekiel. I'm giving you that name for reasons which I'm not going to say. Because Ezekiel doesn't need any attention. He gets the least amount of attention. Maybe that's what I asked, is who gets the least amount of attention? And they said Ezekiel because he doesn't need it. Well, Ezekiel didn't need it because he was 10 months old. He never cried. He never laughed. He never responded to anybody. All day long, he would rock his head back and forth. If he soiled his diapers, didn't matter. Rock his head back and forth. If he's hungry, thirsty, doesn't matter. No response. So no attention was needed for him. Because of the story I read, decided I'm going to give this kid a lot of attention and see what happens. Now, you may have guessed exactly what happened. I didn't see it for a week or two, but I began noticing in his eyes, Ezekiel became alive. He began to respond. He began to respond to me. I began seeing him smile, then laugh, and cry, and get upset when he was hungry or soiled. I have, and I know that Ezekiel today is very normal, young adult in his 20s or 30s. What would that be? He's got to be in his 40s. Oh my, that's pretty sad. That's pretty bad for me. Okay, it was back in 1980. He was 10 months old. Okay, he'd be 40. All right, so I don't think it was a miracle that he responded, that he was taught to respond. It was love, it was care, but there was a miracle in the story. And even though everybody looked and said Ezekiel was miraculously cured from his brain lack of ability to respond, I think that came naturally. And I think the miracle really was in me finding and reading that article a month or two before I went to Haiti. I'm not saying this to say miracles don't exist. I'm just saying we misunderstand a lot of things that look miraculous, but are in fact very natural. Expectation reads into things such as cancer and such as Ezekiel. Expectation will also help create a placebo. A placebo that can, and this is what faith healers have really learned, how to get people on stage believing that they've been cured and really believing it. You don't need actors on stage. All you need to do is convince people that healing is taking place throughout the auditorium. You will need lots of worship. You need to get them built up. You need that community, and you need that authority where people actually believe that somebody up there really is the channel through whom God is working. And what happens is a placebo response takes place throughout that entire, and because people don't understand placebos, they see this as cures, healing. But placebo response is happening, scattering throughout. And that's why you don't see entire groups being healed, because not all of us respond the same way to placebos. And that is also why you will find a very temporary healing that takes place. It seems like a healing. Placebos work in a lot of different ways, but mostly in the area of pain. I studied Catherine Kuhlman. I studied Benny Hinn. I listened to close to 100 different people writing down everything. Oh, I listened to many more than that, but I copied down and wrote in Excel spreadsheet a lot of different things. Hundreds of people, but in the Excel spreadsheet, about 100 different people that I wrote down, and I looked for percentages. I looked for statistics. And what I found is about 80 to 85% of the people on stage talked about pain being gone. Guess what the number one area is that placebo can affect? Pain. Now, in my own life, it affected my sinuses for 1 hour. You see, placebo cannot cure, but it can relieve pain. It cannot cure, but it can do other things, working with symptoms. And that's as good as a placebo can ever get. And that is what you'll find with the vast majority of people on stages. Pain relieved. Pain relieved, I can get up out of my wheelchair. Pain relieved, I can move around my arms. Pain relieved, I can do all kinds of stuff I shouldn't be doing because I'm really very possibly hurting myself more. And when the pain returns, which it does, it's going to hurt. Even Benny Hinn admits some cases people get back into their wheelchair, and he admits that that could be the placebo effect. All right. So expectation helps create that placebo. Now, placebos are not bad. What is bad is people thinking that's going to be the permanent cure when in fact it isn't. Now, the interesting thing, another interesting point that I'm going to bring out here is that I have presented and talked to people about my channel, this, TED Thought, one-on-one, a handful of times. I don't care to tell people that I trash the very people they might really believe in. There's only been a handful of people, and yet I would say about 20% of that maybe closer to half, maybe, I don't know, somewhere in there, because I don't know how many people I talked to, have said as soon as I presented to them about the placebo effect, lights went off, and they tell me stories. In one case, it's a guy who's not even a Christian. He says his uncle was in a church, one where they heal people, and his uncle was healed from his back pain, and he picked up his son, and he put his son on his shoulder and danced around in the church. But my friend said the next day, the pain returned. He didn't know what to say or what to think about that. So you just don't talk about things like that because you just don't get it. You know, it just doesn't add up. That's not a miracle. If it was, it's gone away. It's confusing to a lot of people. Another person I talked to about it, she said, well, basically her sister, her whole family's charismatic. And she says, well, that explains why. My sister will go every time they have a healing service, she goes up because she will find a relief from pain for a short period of time. So she'll go up every time. And she didn't say anything about it confuses my sister or my sister doesn't get why. She just says she goes up every time because she knows she'll get a temporary pain relief. This is the placebo effect. Nothing more, nothing less. But people, because of expectation, will read into that, and they will see something that they will call a miracle. Because they don't understand, because they don't have it in their head to understand placebo. There's a vague understanding of placebo, not a good understanding at all, and not a realization that everything that they are seeing matches placebo and does not match at all what Jesus did. Culture of exaggeration leads to expecting leaders to have credentials, expertise, and knowledge when they really don't. Doctor, apostle, and prophet seem bigger than they really are. But they're not. They're human beings who are fallen. They're human beings who use the placebo effect and who use their titles, their exaggerated titles, who use their exaggerated stories to lure people in and to believe. And unless you have knowledge in this area, unless you really dig into this stuff, you're vulnerable. culture of exaggeration leads to expecting to hear from God in times when God is not speaking. You'll see God in numbers and names and world events, earthquakes, disasters, dreams. These guys are talking so much about dreams and visions and all this kind of stuff. I think they're reading way too much, way too much. Does God give you dreams? Sure, he might. And I told you in one of my past videos of a dream that I had, a dream. We can look for God in way too many things. Sometimes you just got to let things go. Maybe, is God in it? Does it matter? Okay, I'm going to end it there. You guys have a good one. Bye.